All right, looks like I'm going live here. Okay, so um, today is the 20th of December, 2018, and this video is a video that, I don't know, I feel like due to circumstance and environment, I wanted to make it today. So I was one of the people who decided that they were going to take the 18th off because honestly, the 18th was just a really bad day to consider everything. And there are no words that can accurately express how I feel about that day or how I felt during that day last year. And so I needed to take that day off. But even though I took that day off from doing any kind of videos or posting anything on social media, that didn't mean that I didn't experience social media. I still went to websites, I still looked on Twitter. I avoided Instagram a lot, but yeah, I still was out there engaging in what people had to say and everything else. Hi, JoJo World. And one of the things that I found very interesting was that during that time period, it seemed like a lot of people were talking about mental health, but not in relation to Jonghyun. For instance, during I think it's the Mamas. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. During the Mamas, I believe BTS won an award, and Jin mentioned that the group thought about breaking up earlier in 2018, which, when you think about the amount of success they've had, not just this year, but maybe in the last 3 years, that is unfathomable. I mean, there's so many groups out there in K-pop who would be fortunate to have even half of BTS's success. And they probably would stick together thinking, okay, we're doing really well. Let's keep going and make more money and get more successful and get more fame. And for them to be at a place where they could probably do anything they wanted to at this point in terms of like bucket list goals and be like, maybe we need to stop all this. I think it says a lot, number one, about how fame doesn't heal everything, how fame isn't the final answer to everything in life. And I think it says a lot about the pressures that they were under, about how even though you may be as high as you think you might be able to go, there's that pressure to keep going. A lot of people, I remember when they were discussing Michael Jackson's life, said that after Thriller, that he spent the rest of his career, hey Anthony, he spent the rest of his career chasing that level of success. And unfortunately, you know, that kind of success is unpredictable. Nobody can predict what's going to land. You may think that you have a good product, a good song, a good movie, whatever else, but you just never know like how the public is going to take it. And some things do really well and some things do phenomenal. And I can't imagine with BTS the idea that we've done something that has garnered international attention. Can we do this again? Is it possible for us to keep this going? Will we look like failures if the next project doesn't do as good? And you have to remember also that BTS is competing with the last big Korean act in the international eyes, which is Psy. And we all know how that story went. There was, Gangnam Style, which was really huge, and then every successive project after that was less and less popular. And it became kind of him chasing after that same meme viral energy. So, for BTS to be as big as they are, but then think the pressure's too much. Maybe we need to call it a day, end it at its height because we can't do any better than this. Or maybe end it where we are now because we're breaking under the pressure of trying to succeed consistently. Every project hit, every project do well. I mean, BTS now has what, 3 million seller albums? In today's day and age, that's unheard of. So that's a lot to carry on your back. And so that was one of the mental health stories that was in the news. And then another mental health story that was in the news was Minji. Minji did an interview with Billboard, and If you haven't read the interview, I highly, highly recommend it. Minji did an interview talking about her time with 2NE1 and kind of what led to her departure from YG and where she is now and kind of where she sees her career. And it's eye-opening and it's everything I suspected, but it was even more heartbreaking than I thought it was. She talked about how as a young girl, 15 years old, she became kind of virally successful in Korea for her dancing, and that YG had promised her a solo career as, a dancer singer. But when she was recruited by YG shortly after, he told her he had this project group that needed a dancer and he wanted her to join as a dancer. So that's how she ended up in 2NE1. And that, one of the first things that was an issue for her was that 2NE1 was considered unattractive, not just by the public, but by YG. And it was hard for her as a young girl who is, just kind of figuring out who she is as a woman and, kind of gaining a self-image, just going through puberty, to have all this criticism about her looks, but yet there being no support, no infrastructure at YG to kind of let her know that the things that netizens say, the things that commentators say, shouldn't allow you to form your opinion of yourself. That there's criticism because there's jealous people, there's criticism because being an idol holds you to an unattainable standard, and then there's just, haters. And there was no one at YG to explain that to her. There was no one at YG to tell her you're more valuable than that. Not only that, but as a 15-year-old girl, 16-year-old girl, you just finished that big dose of puberty. Like you just started maybe menstruating, your body has just finished developing, and now kind of all the hormones are going down and you're learning how to navigate in that space from child to woman. And so socially, you're going to be a bit awkward. You're not going to be as mature, as sophisticated, as witty, as kind of quick as your older peer group will be, because you're just learning these things. And she expressed how, she was alone a lot of the time. She didn't know how to relate to other idols who were more attractive, who were older. Even within her group, she was like a super magne. Like everyone in her group was way older than her and they just couldn't relate. And she said she loved her group members and she liked being with them when they were promoting, but in promotion cycles, they would spend all their time together. They would be going from event to event to event, socializing. She couldn't really socialize with the other idols. And then when the promotion cycle was over, she wouldn't have any contact with the other members. She would be alone again. And she said that she was suicidal at some point in that time. And it was Teddy actually who encouraged her to rely on her faith as a Christian to help get her through those times. But that, the long time in between projects, the not coming through on the promise of helping promote her solo career, the lack of support for her just for her health in general, that these were all the things that led her to believe that she couldn't remain with YG anymore. That and just, nobody ever told her anything. There was no communication. There was nobody who wanted to say, hey, this is what we're doing. These are our plans. Here's your input. Here's how we're going to work it in. She was like a hired hand. And that wasn't what she wanted for her life. As she matured and started to kind of take control of her womanhood, she's like, I want to be in control. And you're not giving me in control. You're not even giving me the courtesy of communication. And so she gave her advice as being, don't allow your pursuit of success to overpower your pursuit of being a successful human being. Like, you can be an idol, but it will probably be better for you just to be an awesome person. And then on top of that was an interview from a former member of Stellar talking about how they were manipulated by their record company in order to sell units, gain Uncle fans, to be more sexual than they wanted to be, but that at every turn when they wanted to say no to some of their more provocative imagery, they were told, we have this contract, And if you don't follow what we want, we'll cash in on this contract and you'll owe us thousands, maybe millions of won. And so that's what kept them doing things that maybe ethically they didn't agree with. And hearing all these stories about, you know, the loneliness of being an idol, the self doubt that you incur, the being in situations that you don't necessarily want to be in, but you have all of these obligations to perform, to produce, to be successful, and how there's no one at the company really to shield you or to guide you, to navigate, to support you in the places that have nothing to do with album production or stage production. It made me sad. And it made me sad because I had hoped that in the year since Jung Yin passing, that the stories we would hear would be people saying, my company stepped in to help me, or my company decided to, you know, give me a break or whatever else. Instead, we're at the anniversary of Jung Yin's passing and we're hearing injury reports from idols and people opening up about how they're still suffering from the residual mental health issues, and it doesn't feel like it's getting better. And it makes me sad. It makes me sad because the only thing I wanted to have happen after everything with Jung Yin was that people would finally start seeing that mental health is just as much of a killer as drugs and alcohol and all the other things that people know they should look out for, and that record labels can do something to protect our idols. And it doesn't feel like anybody took his passing as a serious indication that the system needs to change. And it makes me scared that this will have to happen a few more times before people will take it seriously. And, you know, I questioned whether or not I wanted to talk about this on my channel because I am not Korean. I've never lived in Korea. I don't have any Korean friends, Korean American friends in my real life. And honestly, the people that I follow on social media, the people that I interact with the most with like Secret Santa and stuff like that, none of those people are Korean either. So I am looking at this strictly from an outsider's point of view. But even as an outsider's point of view, I can tell you as a human being, there are a few things that are universal. What's universal is that we all get happy and we all get sad, but there is a point where sadness isn't normal. There's a point where the sadness extends for so long that maybe it's time to do something. And if you have people experiencing that sadness, rather than treating it as some kind of fault in their system that they have to get over, maybe think, obviously, if they're continuing to have this sadness, it's something that they... Sorry about that, guys. You know how it is with the live streams. It always has to cut off. But yeah, you know, maybe this is a time when you could do something other than being critical, and maybe here's an opportunity to support. With it being the anniversary of Jung Yin's passing, I read his final letter again, and one of the things he says in the letter towards the end is that maybe he wasn't meant to be famous. And he spends a lot of time blaming himself, and he talks a lot about his loneliness. And, you know, on the one hand, when I first read the letter a year ago, I didn't feel like I could relate. But then yesterday, I was at my mom's house and I was picking up some mail from her place. And when I was going through the stack of mail, I'm not even, this is real talk. When I was going through the stack of mail, there was a handwritten note in the stack. And it was actually a note that my uncle had written. I don't know when. It wasn't dated. But it was a note my uncle had written while he was alive. And in the note, he tells somebody, and I don't know who, he tells them, I'm not doing well. I'm not mentally stable. I think you need to increase my medicine. I'm not well enough to go to the doctor's office. Can my mom come for me? And it hit me in a place. It hit me in a place because my uncle didn't make it. I've mentioned this on my channel a couple of times. My uncle, he ended up taking his own life in September of this year. And he not only cried out for help, but he was very specific about what he needed. He wanted his Zoloft prescription increased from 50 to 100. He wanted his Zoloft prescription doubled. And what actually happened with my uncle is that his therapist canceled his prescription before he passed away. And in the 8 months before he died, he didn't have his medicine. And because mental illness is something that affects your mind, and the laws in America allow for, a certain amount of freedom of choice, when he got to a point where he was too unstable to really function, my grandmother took him to a hospital. But because there's freedom of choice and you can't force somebody to be committed unless they have harmed themselves first or harmed somebody else, they released him and he went home. And he went home and he harmed himself. He shot himself in the back of the head. So, reading Jung Yun's letter a year ago, and then reading it a couple days ago, and then reading my uncle's letter, I could see a lot of parallels of someone asking for help, someone recognizing that what's going on with me doesn't feel right. And I no longer have control of this. And I just don't want anybody else to ever have that feeling. I just don't want anybody else to ever have that feeling, because it's devastating as a secondary person to see that unfold. And so I don't want anyone else's family to feel that pain, but also because in my lifetime, I've been fortunate enough to meet people who have come out the other side of that. I've been fortunate enough to be exposed to people who've had truly low moments, times when they thought life couldn't get any worse, and years later be the victor over these problems. And so I do believe it's temporary, and I believe it can be made better. And because of that, I want people to be victorious. But what needs to happen is that society has to start taking this seriously. Society has to start treating depression, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, OCD, all of these different mental roadblocks. They have to start treating them the same way we would treat somebody with diabetes, or somebody with cancer, or somebody with an amputated leg. Treat it the way you would a visual illness, and start making it to where people don't have to be ashamed to ask for help. They should be supported if people know that they need help, and they should be allowed to try to rehabilitate themselves from these low points, from these things that handicap their life. That's what I hope to see in the year since. And it didn't happen this year, but I hold out hope it will happen next year. I hold out hope that Jung Yun's passing will not be in vain. Another thing that really struck me, because, I'm on the sad bandwagon. I was looking at some pictures from Jung Yun's Dazed and Confused pictorial from 2015, And I had forgotten that year. I know that sounds like a weird thing to say, but like, you know, when you're in K-pop, there's so many comebacks and so much stuff happens that sometimes you forget about like what happened in a year. I had forgotten about 2015. 2015, I remember that pictorial very well because it was the skinniest Jonghyun had ever been. And I remember seeing that pictorial and thinking, something is wrong. Jonghyun looks like scary skinny. He looks skeletal. And looking back at that pictorial and looking at his eyes and looking at how gaunt his face was, that to me, just visually, on a visual level, it looked like that might have been a bad period for him. But I remember him getting a lot healthier after that. I remember his face kind of taking on a little bit of weight. I just remember him looking very different. And then I was watching another video because I'm trying to remember good times of him when he surprised one of his fans at a cafe she was working at. And I remember him talking to her, and in the video, he tells her, you know, well, what do you want to do when you graduate from school? She says she wants to be a radio producer. And this was during the time that he was on Blue Night. And he tells her, oh, wow, you want to be a radio producer? Well, you know, maybe 10 years from now, I'll meet you on the radio and we'll remember this time I surprised you at the cafe. And so for him at that moment to say, I have future plans. We have future plans. But then for him to be so methodical towards the end of his life and orchestrating how that would unfold. Like I said, I feel like there's periods. I feel like they come in waves. I don't think it's a constant, steady terribleness. I think it may be a low hum and then it's a high pitch and then again it's another low hum. And I wonder if maybe somebody could have helped him when it was at a low hum to at least kind of keep it there. You know, we would have had several more years with him. We would have had several more years with him. Think about that. I hope that you guys watched that clip too. I don't know what the name of the clip is. I think it's called like Jonghyun helps a stressed fan, something like that. But it's such a neat clip because a lot of the things that Jonghyun has said in interviews about how to talk to people who are having a hard time, he displays every single bit of it in that clip. For instance, he asks her about herself, allows her to talk about herself. And instead of giving her empty platitudes, he actually engages in the things she says and tries to bring out good things. For instance, she talks about how she applied for college and she didn't get in the first time and she had to take a year off, and how stressful it was for her because all of her friends were already in school and she felt like she was behind the curve. And instead of telling her, well, you know, that's okay, you know, you're going to be all right, he tells her, that year actually is going to put you ahead of the curve because you had a year to think about yourself, a year to improve, a year to build, a year to kind of replan things. And now you're completely set and you're going to do so much better because now you're in a place where you're stronger than you were that year before. Like he really paid attention to her. And he never touched her. Like they walked very close to each other. They worked together at the shop, but he never like tried to put a hand on her or, you know, try to be too aggressive. He was very gentle with her because I guess he could tell that's what she needed. And it was just a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful thing to watch. And he was a beautiful man, and not just physically and not just talent wise, like his mind. He was a beautiful man. He was extremely sensitive. He was caring. He was kind. He cared so much about people and what people's life experiences were and how their world was formed and what their experiences were like, and getting to understand what it was like living someone else's life. And he was constantly trying to improve himself, constantly self-educating, constantly trying to hone his craft, not just as a poet or an artist, but also to hone his craft as a human being, learn what it's like to kind of live all of these different facets of the world. And it's a never ending tragedy that he didn't get a chance to do more, give us more, give himself more. Forget us. If he had quit being an idol on December 18th rather than quitting his life, I would have been fine with that. If I knew what the alternative was, I would be absolutely fine with that. But, there's a lot that the world missed out on that he could have provided for us. And that's unfortunate. I think about that. Poet artist. I talked about poet artists on my channel. I did a quick review of poet artists, but I'm glad that his last project was poet artist. I feel like this year also was really good in that when people remember Jung In, they remembered the fact that he was a really gifted songwriter. Not just that he was good looking and was an idol and was a member of SHINee and that he could sing really well, but people actually remember that Jongin wrote some really great songs. Having Ehi perform Breathe several times this year, that song has been so relatable to so many people, and it's nice that people are seeing that song as kind of one of the hallmarks of Jonghyun, and it has nothing to do with his image, and it has everything to do with his actual talent for capturing human emotion and, capturing a melody and creating a concept through song. I think that's beautiful. A lot of people have talked about his compositions with SHINee. People have talked about the way the songs are written on Poet Artist, and it's been really nice to have that part of his life celebrated. So I'm really grateful for that. That's really lovely, and I'm so proud of his achievements this year. There were a lot of awards that we would have loved to have seen him nominated for and to win, but at the same time, the awards don't mean anything if he can't receive them, The awards are basically to try to validate, the fact that he gave us something beautiful. But that validation has come from just the fact that the album has sold the way it has, the fact that on a lot of critical lists, the album has been very well reviewed, and not because of sentimentality, but because of the actual quality of the work. The fact that people are going back into his discography and saying, wow, there's a lot here to process, and so much of it is so very good. So, those are small victories for sure. And then, just the inspiration he gave to other people within his own social circle. The video that Key posted on the anniversary of Jongyun's death, and it's a video of Key like fixing his hair in the cell phone, and you can see Jongyun just tracking it the whole time as he's sitting behind Key, just looking at him. And that kind of, to me, symbolizes the place that I see Jonghyun at now. I no longer see Jonghyun here in the physical form, but I kind of imagine him as like this guardian angel just behind the other members' backs, just looking at what they're doing and smiling and being happy and enjoying watching them work. And I think of all the stuff he got to watch them do this year and how proud he must be of them, because they showed up and they showed out this year. So that was a good thing. That was a really good thing. That was good to see. I hope that Onu spent his birthday warm. I hope that there were people there to hug him when he needed it this week. And finally, just, to kind of wrap this all up, I'm going to talk about one person and then something for you to take away from all this. I want to talk about Sodam. Sodam, Jonghyun's sister, she has been instrumental in kind of guiding the SHINee Foundation, and they had an event on the 17th for Jonghyun on behalf of the SHINee Foundation, and she spearheaded that. And I saw a few fan accounts, and they talked about how hospitable she was, how put together she was, how she did a great job hosting the event. But let's not forget that she was the last person that Jong-un talked to in this life. He sent her a text message pretty much letting her know it was over, and she's the one who contacted the police. And, you know, I'm sure that for her, she always wonders, like, if I could have just gotten the police there a little bit quicker, if maybe I had gone over there myself. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of things that kind of go through her mind. But to watch her over the course of this year, you know, be strong for us, for her to update us on what Rue is doing, and to still do stuff with the foundation, and to be so present and so strong when people that have been in similar situations couldn't do what she's done. It's amazing. And I hope, again, Jong is just sitting behind her shoulder saying, you can do it, sis. You know, you're always my favorite. I love you. So shouts out to her for just being the real MVP. And then lastly, for you guys, I know this was a rambling conversation and I talked about a lot of different stuff over this last half hour, but take care this winter. Unrelated to K-pop, I saw on Twitter where they were talking about how a radio host in the UK had like a talk radio show, where people call in and they will talk about something that's going on in their life, and maybe he helps them sort out things. And a gentleman called him and he's like, I just took a bunch of medicine an hour ago. I'm in the process of trying to kill myself. And that the person that he called stayed on the radio with him while the production people in his studio contacted the police, and he stayed on the phone with this individual until the police arrived to help this person. He asked questions to try to figure out where the person was. There were a few times when the person kind of nodded out and he'd be like, hey, are you with me? Are you with me? Please talk to me. Let me know what's going on. I want to hear your voice. He talked this person through what could have been, had it not been for intervention, the end of this person's life, and saved this person's life, really. And when I was reading about that article, about that incident, what the article said is that this particular time of the year is really bad for people who deal with depression and people who have suicidal thoughts, because it's a perfect storm of elements. You know, first of all, there's not as much sunshine. It's cold outside, so people are spending more time indoors. This is this time when society tells you you're supposed to be happy and things are supposed to be okay, and everyone should feel loved and everyone should get everything that they want out of life, and fresh starts and a chance for a new year and a new you. And then people realize, no, it doesn't come out that way, and all the trees are bare, and I'm lonely, and it affects a lot of people. It kind of brings all of their problems to a head this particular period of the year. And so for you, I just want to keep in mind, just for you to consider your mental health, take care of yourself, try to spend as much time outdoors as possible in the sun, because you need the sun. Actually, biologically, you need the sun. There are certain vitamins that you get from sunlight. So yeah, you actually need the sun. Eat well, eat hearty. Try to eat as many seasonal fruits and vegetables as you can. Drink plenty of water. And we're here, you and I were talking because we are an internet family. We may not know each other day to day, but we have these spaces where we can connect. If you feel alone, if you feel like no one is there for you, engage in a conversation with me in the comments section. You can reach me on Twitter if you need to DM me. There's plenty of people that you may follow who also feel the same way. If I don't do anything else in the course of having this channel, I want to make sure you're okay. So, you know, holler at me. Let me know how you're doing. Take care this winter. Take care this winter, because it's so easy to get lost. It's so easy to feel like ash and just get blown away. But I'm telling you, no matter how insignificant you think your life is, there are people who will miss you and will mourn, and you'll never know because you won't be here. So, think about that. If maybe you can't do it for yourself right now, do it for me. Do it for other people out there who are friendly to you. And find things that you can do to hold on. At least until this time next year when we'll talk about this again and we'll try it again and we'll just keep on holding on. As it stands, though, I'm very proud of you. I'm very proud of you because I know a few of us didn't know if we were going to make it to the end of 2018, and here we are. So if you did it, you did that. And if that doesn't prove that you can make it, let me tell you, you can make it. You made it this far. Just hold on a little bit longer, guys. Just a little bit longer. The sun is going to come out. It's going to start getting warmer as soon as we get past this next few cold weeks, maybe next couple of cold months. The days are going to get longer. It's all going to get better. Just you have to hold on. Find a comeback that you just can't wait to see. Hold on until that comes out. Then find the next comeback and hold on to that one. Just hold on. Just hold on. So I know this is not typical content that I put on this channel. This is more stuff I put on my chats channel, but I just wanted to have the conversation, guys. I just wanted to have the conversation because I needed to hear it, and you guys needed to hear it. So, since we're friends, this is the conversation we're having. I definitely think that this has been more on my mind this year. Not just for missing Jonghyun, but also I think the uncle thing has really gotten me in a melancholic mood. This is the first Christmas that I haven't bought him a Christmas present since I've been an adult. And me and my daughter were out a couple of days ago Christmas shopping. And it's funny because we went to the mall and the mall was closed because there had been a shooting earlier that day. So we couldn't shop at the mall. So we ended up shopping at TJ Maxx, I guess. And there were wallets by the checkout stand. And I thought about how most Christmases I usually buy him a belt, a shirt, or a wallet. And this was the Christmas I wasn't going to buy him anything. And it felt really weird. It felt really weird. So, yeah. Thank you, Ruby. I'll take care too. So, we'll take care of each other. We're going to be all right. We're going to be all right. All right, you guys. Thank you for watching. Sorry about the interruptions. You know my live streams are terrible. But, it is what it is. I have two more videos scheduled before the year is over. I will do the K-pop tag this year because I didn't do it last year, so I'm going to do it this year. And I have a giveaway video I need to do because I've been hoarding things to give away to you guys. But those are the two videos that I'll be doing. But, in the meantime and in between time, take care of yourselves. I'm going to take care of me. This is the toughest Christmas of my life. This is the toughest Christmas of my life. But I'm going to get through it, and you're going to get through it, and we're going to be okay. Just keep moving your goalpost out a little bit further every day. Just keep pushing it out. If you make 2 steps forward, push that goalpost out 3 steps. And just keep trying to catch up. Keep trying to catch up. And eventually we'll get there. All right, guys. Bye.